My name is Leela Morrow, and this is the story of the teacher who lit up my 16th year like a comet, then vanished across oceans and time, only to reappear as a quiet, ordinary man whose magic had long since faded into the pages of someone else's life. It is a story about the difference between the boy who worships a star and the woman who learns the star is only light. 1. The New History Teacher. Autumn 2011. Willowbrook Secondary, a red brick school that smelled of chalk dust and cafeteria tater tots. I was 15, all elbows and daydreams, buried in the back row of grade 10 history with a sketchbook hidden inside my textbook. Then Mr. Julian Hart walked in. 25 years old, fresh from teacher's college, with chestnut hair that curled at the collar and hazel eyes that changed color depending on the light, green in the morning sun, amber under fluorescence. He wore tweed blazers 2 sizes too big hand-me-downs from his professor father, we later learned, and spoke about the French Revolution as if he'd hidden under Marie Antoinette's chaise longue himself. Every girl in school found an excuse to linger near room 212. They asked for extra library passes, forgot their lockers, practiced synchronized water fountain trips. I was quieter. I simply never missed a class, never turned in homework late, and wore the same navy cardigan every Tuesday because once he'd said, "Blue suits you, Leela, it matches the Atlantic on D-Day." I lived for the smallest crumbs. The way he tapped his pen against his lip when thinking, the soft, "well done" he gave only when you truly earned it, the rare smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. I started volunteering answers even when my palms sweated. Once, he kept me after the bell to discuss my essay on the Underground Railroad. "You see people, Leela," he said, leaning against his desk. "Not just dates, that's rare." I floated home on that sentence for weeks. 2 secret pilgrimages. I mapped his life, the way cartographers once charted new worlds. He rented the attic apartment above Mrs. Kowalski's garage, 3 blocks from my house, pale yellow siding, crooked shutters. Some evenings I walked the long way home, slowing when I reached the glow of his window. If the curtains were open, I'd catch glimpses. Him marking essays in an old armchair, a kettle whistling, jazz drifting out like smoke. Once he stepped onto the tiny balcony with a mug, looked straight down the street and waved. I nearly dropped my backpack. "Evening, Miss Morrow," he called, amused. "Out past curfew." I mumbled something about forgetting my library book and fled, cheeks burning. 3. The Vanishing. Grade 11 began with a substitute and a rumor. Mr. Hart had accepted a fellowship at Oxford, something about archival research on Napoleonic letters. By October, he was gone. The classroom felt colder, the walls echoing with absence. I kept walking past the yellow house. Mrs. Kowalski eventually taped a note to the door. "Tenant moved to England. Mail forwarded." I pressed my forehead to the window and saw only darkness and a single forgotten coffee mug on the sill. 4. The Unexpected Return. 2 years later, grade 12, university entrance exams looming. I enrolled in Saturday intensive humanities at the community college to boost my portfolio. I was early, clutching a latte when he walked to the podium. Older but unmistakably him. Hair shorter, a faint scar above one eyebrow, bike accident in London. I'd learned, wearing a charcoal sweater instead of tweed. His eyes scanned the room and stopped on me. A flicker of recognition, then a genuine smile. "Leela Morrow," he said as if no time had passed. "Still chasing stories." The class was small, 12 students. I sat front row, heart hammering. After the lecture, he asked about my university applications. I asked about Oxford. We talked until the custodian flicked the lights. "Walk you to the bus," he offered. It became routine. Saturday classes, then coffee, then long walks along the river path where the maple leaves bled crimson into the water. He told me about digging through dusty archives at 3 a.m., about falling in love with a city that smelled of old books and rain. I told him about art school dreams, about the mural I wanted to paint on the school's ugly concrete wall. One November evening, frost silvering the grass, he stopped beneath the footbridge. "I've missed this place," he said quietly. "Missed teaching kids who actually listen." Then he kissed me, soft, tentative, tasting of peppermint tea. The river kept moving beneath us, indifferent and ancient. 5. The second vanishing. 3 weeks later, he was offered a visiting lectureship at UCLA. "I have to take it, Leela. It's tenure track, a future." We promised letters, emails, Skype. For a while we managed. Postcards from Griffith Observatory, my doodles of Hollywood stars with history puns. But university swallowed me. Studio hours, part-time barista shifts, new friends who didn't know the name Julian Hart. His messages grew shorter, mine apologetic. By sophomore year, silence. 6, 8 years later. I was 26, living in Vancouver, junior graphic designer at a boutique firm. One restless Thursday, I searched his name on LinkedIn out of nowhere. Julian Hart, Ph.D. Associate Professor, Pacific Coast University. Specializing in digital humanities. Profile photo. Same hazel eyes, now framed by wire-rimmed glasses, a salt and pepper beard, smiling beside a golden retriever named Darcy. I sent a message on impulse. "Coffee, next time you're north of the border." He replied within minutes. "How about tomorrow? I'm keynoting at UBC." We met at a cafe on West 4th, exposed brick, overpriced lattes, rain tapping the windows like nervous fingers. I wore the navy cardigan, now vintage and pilled. He wore a plaid shirt, sleeves rolled, forearms tanned from California hikes. We talked for 3 hours. He asked about my murals, 2 commissioned, one on the side of a youth shelter. I asked about tenure, granted last spring. He was married, no ring, but a photo on his phone, a brunette historian named Mara, laughing on a Sonoma vineyard. They had a toddler, Leo, who apparently loved dinosaurs and jazz. The conversation was warm, easy, like slipping into an old song. But something essential was missing. The electric hush that used to fall when he said my name, the way the world narrowed to his voice, and the chalk dust on his fingers. He was kind, accomplished, content. I was proud, curious, unchanged in some ways and unrecognizable in others. When we hugged goodbye, his sweater smelled of cedar and someone else's laundry detergent. 7. The quiet epilogue. That night I pulled out my high school yearbook. There he was on page 42, mid-laugh, captioned Mr. Hart, revolutionary in residence. I traced the photo and felt gratitude, not ache. He messaged the next week. "It was lovely seeing the woman you've become. Let's stay in touch, no pressure, just friends." I replied, "Thank you for the spark, Mr. Hart. Some fires are meant to light the path, not warm the hearth forever." I never wore the navy cardigan again. Donated it to a thrift shop where, hopefully, another shy girl might find courage in its threads. 8. New seasons. 2 years later, I'm engaged to Matteo, a set designer who builds entire worlds out of plywood and paint. We met when I was hired to illustrate his theater posters. Our first date was spent on a rooftop mixing pigments under string lights. He kissed me with turquoise on his thumb and said, "You make history feel like tomorrow." Sometimes, walking the seawall at dusk, I pass a school group on a field trip. If the teacher has kind eyes and a passionate voice, I smile, remembering the boy who once believed a man in tweed held the universe. The rain still falls in Vancouver, sudden and silver. I no longer run for cover. I tilt my face to it, tasting salt and possibility, knowing every drop nourishes something new beneath the surface. Mr. Julian Hart was the first chapter of my romantic education. Mateo is the book I get to keep writing, page by living page.